Who is your heart beating for? Who is your heart beating for in this life?
Okay, so welcome everyone. We have a new guest with us for our Faces of Love series. This is Miss Janéa Swander. She is a lovely woman that I met at a retreat a couple of years back, and wanted to share some of her story with regard to her personal love journey, as well as her current love mission or missions. So Janéa, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Kevin.
Offhand, what would you consider your personal love mission to be? What is it that you...
The first thought, okay, because I'm going with my first thought. And actually, this came up yesterday for me, was just that message that we're not broken.
Okay.
That we're already whole individuals as we are. It's just we're peeling away what no longer serves us, like what conditioning and everything we have experienced in our respective life journeys that are hiding us from the truth of the fact that we're not broken, that we're already whole.
Oh, I like that.
You know, so, you know, I have that on my work, you know, website, or my business website as well. And I think that's been a part of my journey, is just coming to that realization that, you know, that we're not here to be fixed or anything. There's nothing to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we already came in as part of divine soul and that source energy. And we just learned things along the way that weren't true.
Fair. So if you don't mind my asking, you mentioned that this came to you as part of your love journey. Can you tell us a bit about how your journey took you from this place of thinking is broken to thinking as was never broken, just learned wrong information?
It's a good question there. I would go back a few years, actually. I mean, things really started to shift in a much deeper way for me a few years ago when I came across Kyle Cease's work.
Okay.
And at the time, I mean, I was certainly not thinking along those lines of not being broken or not having something that needed to be fixed. I was still in the mindset that, you know, that there was, you know, something that was wrong that needed some kind of fixing or some kind of special process or something to make things better. And I feel like actually getting to that space of starting to acknowledge that there isn't anything that needs fixed is a newer piece like that. So I came across Kyle's work a few years ago, but the actual piece of feeling, hey, wait a minute, no, it's not that I'm inherently broken. It's just, I'm just uncovering pieces that are not of service to me and are not telling me what's true.
Well, can I jump in for one second, just for those of our viewers who may not be familiar with Kyle Cease's work?
Yes, absolutely.
So Kyle Cease is a former stand-up comedian. He had multiple #1 specials on Comedy Central, and actor as well. And he decided to transition from that portion of his career to do transformational workshops and retreats, which was how I met Janéa.
Mm-hmm.
And his books, his workshops, his retreats, definitely recommend. I've gone through them myself. He's got excellent content, and if you're interested, I'll post a link to some of his work in the video here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so I had read so much content. It was after I came across Kyle Cease's work that I decided to really incorporate more of the content more fully into my own life. And so there was a period of time, there's probably a few months actually, where I just cocooned myself because I knew something wasn't right. Like I knew something needed to change. I just wasn't sure exactly what or how to go about doing that. And I wasn't thinking about conditioning. I wasn't thinking about societal, messages that we get and stuff. It was just a feeling that, okay, I feel awful and something needs to give here because I don't want to feel this way anymore. So
Understandable.
yeah, so I cocooned myself with that. From Kyle's work, that led into, Abraham Hicks, that led into Matt Kahn, that led into other people. So, I think like once you're on that journey of making that commitment to yourself that, this is things that aren't going to stay this way anymore. And now I'm willing to do more than just read about it. I'm willing to actually take the steps to uncover what's the truth about me. Like what's, to get to that point. That's when everybody else starts showing up. That's when other teachers and other, other wonderful leaders out in the community start showing up. And then that's when you start opening yourself up to meeting people and going to retreats. And that's when we got a chance to meet. And so, and getting involved in those online communities and everything.
Yeah, it reminds me of a quote that I used to keep on my desk of, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. You mentioned before that you had that you keep a sign or a mantra on your desk. So what is it that you do?
So I'm trained as a mental health therapist. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. My background is actually in PTSD therapy work using evidence-based treatments for that, such as prolonged exposure and cognitive processing therapy. I'm also now incorporating Jikiden Reiki. The word Jikiden means directly handed down from teacher to student without alterations. So I've been using Jikiden Reiki, and then I'm also actually working with a whole new mentor who I've been working with since last March. Her name is Pamela Erlin, and she's a spiritual teacher as well. So just like you said, when you're ready, the teacher will arrive, and there they are, and that's what happened. So I've been learning what she has developed called quantum alchemy, which is just a way to use things within ourselves, the light, sound, elements and everything, to help with healing, help with uncovering.
Now that's interesting.
Who we are.
That's a form of healing that very few of us actually think of, because it's not one we generally espouse in the Western world.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
But to think that just sound, which we engage with all the time, light, which we engage with all the time, color, which is other than the blind, and the color blind, we engage with all the time. So
right.
To think that these things that we would consider to be everywhere or possibly even mundane, when used correctly, and I'm assuming there's a complete method to this,
right?
Could actually be something that's a part of your healing. That's interesting.
And I don't know if you've ever seen on YouTube, one of the channels that I like on there is called Meditative Mind.
Okay.
And they have a lot of different sound frequency, hertz and everything that are associated with specific areas. So it might be associated with like the heart chakra, root chakra, or different levels of healing or helping to relieve anxiety or something along those lines. So that's just another way that sound can be incorporated. And so when I do a Reiki session, I frequently will pick a hertz frequency that is in alignment with whatever that person is interested in working on.
So one of the things you mentioned was that you had a specialty in PTSD. So were you working with a lot of veterans, or was this more trauma, people who've gone through traumas?
It was with veterans. I was working at the Salem Veterans Affairs Medical Center in Salem, Virginia.
Okay.
And when I was simply, at the time, I was actually just trying to get employed. I was just trying to get a job somewhere. I wanted to be working in therapy work, but I wasn't sure where I was going to land within the Veterans Affairs system, and happened to fall into the PTSD clinic. It was certainly not what I thought was going to happen, but it ended up being a great place to really get started, because it was full on. There was no little bit of, it wasn't like, here, just let's easily transition into therapy work. It was that's my clinical director saying, who's the toughest person I can give to you as your very first client for this? And let's begin right there. And,
Them by fire. All right.
um, and I mean, all worked out at stuff, but it was really great, training ground. Very, very valuable experience. I'm grateful I had a chance to be able to work with them. So in our clinic, we worked with veterans of all eras, who met criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder based off of a time in their service. So one of the criteria was that their PTSD was related to military things. And then we also worked with military sexual trauma as well. And then also just worked with a lot of veterans who are recently coming back from deployments, like to Iraq and to Afghanistan. So we had a variety of different things going on, but it's certainly, in terms of feeling more comfortable as a therapist, that was, that was most definitely it was a perfect match for that.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, so let me ask you this, because it sounds like this was past tense. Do you still work with this community?
So I'm no longer at the Veterans Affairs Medical Center. I left there several years ago that was actually family reasons. I decided to move out of the area.
Okay.
And so now I am starting my practice here in Williamsburg, Virginia.
Okay.
And I have it started up. I'm just kind of slowly moving along with building the practice. And I am incorporating, trauma therapy work as part of what I'm doing.
Oh,
it certainly is not limited to veterans any longer.
Excellent.
That's all.
So I want to circle back to something you said at the top and going back to that quote that you used, because I thought it was fantastic, that we are not broken. We are not here to be fixed. We are already whole. Is that something that you learned along just your personal journey, or is that something you gleaned from your experience with patients? How did you come to that realization?
Oh, goodness. Okay, so I'm thinking about both right now, between myself and then clients I've worked with over time. Yeah, I feel it's both. I mean, because when I think about it, and I remember, times I've sat across, in an office space with somebody, or when I've been in a hospital setting and sat with somebody. When you're doing that type of work with somebody, it's not like you're just helping them, because there's no way to get away from all the words coming out of your mouth when you're working with them. So something starts to sink in somewhere, and so, yeah, I really feel that it's both. Like, I feel like, because I've had some time where I wasn't doing specific therapy work when I came back to the area where I am now, and when I moved away from the VA system, I was working on an acute psychiatric unit. So I wasn't able to do therapy work per se at that time. It was much briefer type of services and assessment services and stuff. So, but even then, like, I remember hearing you can't help but add in a little bit of stuff and hear yourself speak over and over again, the same person. And there was never somebody I sat across from who I was sitting there thinking that they were not already a whole person.
Okay.
It was just, they just couldn't see it yet.
Well, and it's a beautiful thing that you can be that mirror to them, to show them that they're whole, because from an individual's perspective, it can be very easy, particularly in tough times, to see ourselves as broken.
Absolutely.
In your experience, what are the things that contribute to people seeing themselves as broken? Like, how does that come about?
I mean, the first thing that came to my mind were our thoughts, like our brain and the thoughts that get stuck in there. sometimes they're thoughts that we've created for ourselves, and sometimes they're thoughts that we've been told by other people, and then we've latched onto them as being true.
Hmm.
Things like saying that we're unlovable, or that we're always messing up, or that we're, no good, or can't do anything right, or like all those thoughts. And, you know, again, like sometimes I do think they start as just something that maybe we heard along the way, but then we're like, no, I'm not going to let go of that thought yet. I'm going to keep carrying it on with me, not consciously. Like, I don't feel like we do that as a species. Like, I don't think that we sit there and say, I want to feel bad, so I'm going to hang on to this thought. Like, it's more, it's there, and I don't know how to release it yet, and how to challenge it, or how to, look at it differently, and realize that, oh, well, that was just something that somebody else thought, that doesn't make it true, but and a lot of these thoughts, I notice, I mean, they come up frequently from when we're little,
Hmm.
when we're children, and we don't know yet how to, how to, especially if the belief or the thought came from somebody who is a caregiver or
Hmm.
something like that. I mean, how are we going to challenge that as a child? That's the person who knows us better than anybody. So,
A caregiver and a caregiver's words, a caregiver's reactions, especially to a young child. Um, I don't know that, and maybe we're better at this than we used to be, but I don't know that we do a very good job of really helping new parents to understand that,
hmm
because especially as a new parent, it's hard enough just trying to get through the activities of the day
hmm
without having to also then be perceiving and paying attention to the emotional impact of how I respond to events, to situations, to my child, to crying, to a tantrum, to
hmm
these things. We don't do a very good job of helping parents to understand that impact,
yeah,
and helping parents to kind of coach to not have that impact.
yeah.
Um, do you have any thoughts on how we might do that differently, or how we might do that better?
I I mean, the first thought that comes up to me is just that, going inward, learning more about oneself, and having a good relationship with yourself. Um, because that certainly is going to then impact the other relationships
Hmm.
in your life, and also change, how you interact and everything. And I'm not saying that that's easy to do. I'm not saying that that's always an easy thing to fit in, but it could be fit in small increments and stuff. I mean, I think the thing is, I would hate for anybody to feel, that any level of guilt or self blame or something for it, because you could have somebody who's the most perfect, who's doing everything
Hmm.
right that they could ever do, and that doesn't mean that their child's not going to still learn negative thoughts, because they still go to school, they still have teachers, they still interact with other people, they have, like, all kinds of things are going to happen. They could turn on the TV and learn stuff, I mean, so certainly I would not, I don't want to, by any means, to the message that it's all coming from one source, because we learn everything, we learn from so many different sources. So I can't, it's just,
That's
that,
fair.
that's just
That's
one.
fair. I mean,
um,
it does indeed take a village. Uh,
it does. But I mean, in terms of like starting to change it, I mean, I think it's just learning more about oneself as best as you're able to, and whether that's in small little bits, or taking the time to sit in silence and reflect for a moment. It could be 2 minutes that you take and say, hey, wait, what just happened? Or even learning to pause when something happens, or put that inner stop sign up that says, okay, I'm gonna stop for a second before I just react, and I'm gonna act instead of react, um, to a situation. and stuff. And that, I mean, that takes work, that takes effort. And it's something that it's a moment by moment choice.
Hmm.
It's not, some days we're going to be great at it. Some days we may not. And it's just a matter of like trying to just make another choice every time that we're aware that something just happened that wasn't perhaps the healthiest thing or the best thing. Okay, how can I make a better choice in the next moment and in the next moment? And, just doing what you can.
In terms of what you want the message or the impact of your life to be, if we had to go to, your epitaph or your epilogue,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, now let's end on a high note. Woo!
I'm not ready to end everything yet, Kevin. Wait a minute.
Just imaginary. We hope you're with us for a long, long time. We're just doing an imagination exercise. But yeah, regardless of thinking about the end, what do you want the impact of your life and your love mission to be?
It's a great question. I hadn't thought about it. So what would I like the impact to be? Oh my goodness. I don't even fully know yet. Like I feel like I'm in a place right now where I'm going inward a lot
Hmm.
and trying to just release my own conditioning, my own things that still need to be released.
Hmm.
Um, and so it's one of those things. Like I feel like it's no matter what I could even come up with to say right now, I feel like it's just going to evolve and change. It's like I want to leave it open for that too, because um yeah, it's I had a thought that was like right there for a second. It's going to come back to me though. Because I think the thing is that even even if I were to set out with a particular mission or something or a particular goal in mind of what I would hope somebody would get from me,
Hmm.
um, the truth is that they're going to get exactly from me what they need. Whether they're my client or my friend or my family member or whatever it is, whatever it is that's meant to be impactful from me that they're meant to carry with them could be something that I may never even think of,
Fair.
be able to even come up with. I want to, you know, I'm working with my mentor on, getting to a place of grace and knowing what that is and what it is to live from
Hmm.
grace and to be able to feel grace. I don't know that yet because it's all brand new. Um, so I certainly hope that by the time I do know what grace is and everything, that would be something that I would be able to impart. Um, but it's yeah, there's a lot there to think about with with your question. Um,
Well, so let me say this because it from just a personal perspective, it helps me to gain a better sense of confidence and even a better rapport with you in that regard. Of It's one thing to be taught, coached, mentored, or led in
mhm,
something by someone who's read it in a book
mhm. Oh,
or seen someone else do it.
uh-huh.
And there's this intellectual way of going about, well, this is how you get this thing done. It's another thing altogether to be led by someone who is doing it,
Oh,
who
absolutely.
has done it.
Yes.
And if there's one thing that is coming through very crystal clear is that you've walked this path. You are still walking this path. You just have more experience in walking this path. You have more tools available to you in walking this path. You have more experience walking this path with others that you can bring the experiences of that and the benefits or the outcomes of that into helping the next person on their journey.
Mm-hmm.
And in that regard, there's a very genuine sense of this person has the tools and the talents available to help me get to where I want to go, even if it's not somewhere they've been. So in that regard, I can highly recommend anyone that is looking for assistance in their own personal love journey to work with you, to work with your practice, see that they get the help that they need in self-discovery and self-love and self-care.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let me ask you this. For those that aren't familiar with your work or with your practice, how can they get in touch with you? Is there a website? Is there social
Yes, I do
media?
have a website. The name of my practice is Connection Therapy Services.
Okay.
And my website is connectiontherapyservices.com.
All right.
I'm in Williamsburg, Virginia for actual therapy. Like if it's considered therapy in the Commonwealth of Virginia, then I have to leave. I can only work with people within the Commonwealth of Virginia. But for things like the quantum alchemy, for the Reiki, I can work with anybody, anywhere on that. So thankfully there are not any limitations on those pieces, which is great. So
that's fantastic. Janéa, thank you so much for taking time to speak with us today. I appreciate
you,
sharing.
Kevin.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your journey and your mission. We wish you all the best success going forward, and thank you for loving with us.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to be here with you today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for those who have been watching, thank you for being here with us as well. This is an ongoing interview series. We'll be working with different people as they discuss their love journeys and their love missions. And we hope that it helps to influence, impact, and help you along your way in your love mission. Have a great day.
Who's your heart beating for? Who's your heart beating for in this life?